You ready, Lee? All right, I will call the meeting to order. Its agenda, date, time, and location were properly announced. And tonight we'll start off with the approval of the minutes of July 18th, 2022 regular meeting and the July 25th, 2022 special meeting.
We have two corrections under that. And Kim and I, we've spoken, but the approval of the student, the middle school handbook, it says motion carried unanimously. And that should be, it was unanimous with one
Abstention.
yes, abstention. And that also for that's two down for the approval of update policies designated for single reading. Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve with those corrections?
So
Matt and Chris? All right. Any other questions, corrections? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next we have payment of bills. Is there a motion to approve for the month of July, the amount of $756,982.93?
So move.
Chuck, is there a second?
Second.
Matt, any questions?
I didn't reach out before. I just wondered about the TNT, the 30,000, and the camera corner. What was 10,000?
So camera corner at 10,000, that's the prepayment of services, Lee, right, that we do?
Yeah, that's prepayment of services, so we're able to call in experts if we need to.
So we do $10,000 at the beginning of the year and it's X amount of hours, so when we call, it's almost like a
for
retainer
IT
type thing.
support?
Yeah, it usually lasts us about a year and a half, 2 years for that. Because, I mean, last time we paid was about 3 years ago, just for that amount, so. It's just helpful when we have things that are a bit more complex.
And they know our facilities pretty well now. We've worked with them for many, since I've been here. They've been one of our major providers, so when there's a issue that needs support above Lee, that's who he calls. So, and TNT, just, you can kind of look around. There's been a lot, I think there's been a lot around just the grounds improvement.
Oh, so that wasn't for buses?
No.
Oh.
Is it?
30,000?
No, I don't believe so. Because that's a straight 30,000 for the busing. So I believe.
Would that have been your part of the fuel?
It could be a couple
Sorry, I
things
didn't
there.
reach out
No,
before.
that's fine. I know there was a little bit of grounds cleanup. You know, we do a lot with TNT now, so they helped us. We moved a shed for football. There's been a lot of things just getting ready for the school year, and Dave's always the number one person we call for that. So I would say there, like it says, multiple invoices. There's probably a couple things in there.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have the cash summary.
Pretty standard today. Nothing. I didn't have any questions. So if there are no other questions, I think we can move on.
And donations.
Yes, donors choose for, we have for Mrs. Clapper, right? What's that for? $688, yes, for
Nice.
classroom supplies. Again, thank you to her for taking the time to putting things out there and finding people that want to help our kiddos.
Any comments from the public? I didn't get a piece of paper with any on there, so. Unless Gary, you want to throw something in there quick? All right. Building reports. It's nice to see you two together.
Lovely to be here. I was thinking, I'm like, oh, we got all the random lights here and feeling a little underdressed. Must be picture tonight.
It must be.
So to start off with strong classrooms, so building leadership teams, all 3 levels, their building leadership teams have come in and spent either a half day to a whole day planning, just talking about school goals, what we want to accomplish at each level, but then also as a whole district. Really focusing on our strong classrooms, which is our standards work and grading and reporting practices, as well as really focusing on culture this year with how we can build our stronger culture with our students and staff. So those, we're all set for our initial first day kickoff assembly. So we're looking forward to that, and we're ready to have the kids back in the building. District leadership team, we met today for a good 4 hours in this room. Probably see our implant in the chairs. We really got a lot of work in doing a book study among all the members, really focusing on evidence-based practices, grading and reporting, and assessment practices. So that was a large part of our planning today, really focusing on the work that we're going to do this school year. So really feeling good about what we're doing. Over 90% of our incoming sixth grade are participating in band, but I also want to say also in choir. I mean, we literally have out of, I think it's 54 students, only 7 are not in both.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was quite the scheduling for that one. This year, I'm like, oh, okay, I got a class of 7, while everyone else is in band and choir together. So that's really exciting for our music program. Summer school session, so I wanted to report out the final numbers. First session, we had 222 students. Second session, 215, and Jumpstart, 221 students. So really a great turnout. A lot of exciting and fun new classes that we did this summer as well. And then our fitness breakfast club, which was the morning workout with Coach Pfeiffer. In the morning, we had over 62 students participating in that throughout the summer. So really, really nice to see all the students there.
For strong culture, building PBIS planning at all of the levels of started up in these prepared activities for the kickoff. Elementary PBIS team had a representation of 12 of us that attended the PBIS conference at the state level last week in the Dallas. 3 virtually, 8 in person. Had a lot of interesting ideas from that conference. Under strong community connections, our back to school social, I can hardly believe it is 25th of August from 5:30 to 7:30. And a huge thank you to the Random Lake Community Library for partnering with the school for some opportunities to bring students during Jumpstart.
Any questions?
I just have a question about any reason why we have such a great participation in sixth grade choir and band? I mean, that seems unusual. Why is that? I mean, it's great.
I really have to say hats off to Nikki Anderson and Brandon Miller. So they started it last school year, or 2 school years. And then this past school year really did it again, but even up more, upped it a level, where they have the students all come down into the auditorium. And we have our high school choir students give a performance, as well as our band, they give a performance. And then we had some of our different vocal groups. So we had a barbershop quartet, a voice barbershop quartet, and different, so they were doing different things to showcase music. And it just really was very upbeat, very lively. And they talked a lot about how you can be in all these different things. So they did something from the musical. They did, really did a nice variety of the musical offerings to get the kids interested. And just from that alone, that really increased.
Wow, great. I mean, great to hear.
Just to tag off that a little bit too, in the elementary, they've been doing the opera for the young, and they've been doing Christmas programs that are more musical in nature. So our kids are exposed to a lot of fantastic fine arts here, and the program is growing.
Thank you.
And just the music piece is just it's almost like learning another language. So having kids taking music is such a great thing academically. You can't test it, like, oh, I'm better at math because I'm a band, I'm in band. But the research shows students that are more musically inclined, they just make more connections with that brain base.
I was limited.
Yeah, me too.
Never got it. That's great.
I'm with you.
Okay, board committee reports, policy committee met, and we have second readings on the agenda. And then next we have the resolution authorizing the general obligation bond in the amount not to exceed 29.9 million.
Okay, Matt, I'm gonna throw this to you, and I'm taking a quiz to see if I got it right or wrong on here. But one of the one question I got about 8 and 9, how come they look so much alike, and what is the difference between 8 and 9? I'll hold my answer and see what you say, and then Katie can tell me how I did. How's that sound?
So I believe the difference between the two is, at item 8, it would be approving the, bond referendum, or the request to put the bond referendum on the ballot. And then the second one, 9, is basically, the board action to request the referendum to consider the,
The election.
potential borrowing. So I don't know why they're two separate action items. They have been my entire career. It must be a state statute thing. But it is always two separate action. One is acknowledging that you want to pursue that project, I guess. And then the second is the formal action to put it on a referendum.
My third
Arguably-
answer was we paid a lawyer a lot of money, and I'm sure it's right.
Yeah, and I think the other reason it is because the first one, if it was $1 million, for example, and you were gonna prepay it through your operating budget, I think the action would look very similar. It's a resolution to borrow X amount of money, but you wouldn't have the second action item because you wouldn't be going to a referendum for it. So I think that's why it's separate. One of them is authorizing. You can't really do the borrowing until the referendum's approved, but for some reason, they're still two separate action items.
And that's why it feels weird, right? So it seems like, we're gonna borrow this money. Oh, I guess we should
Yeah, I understand.
pass. It's like, yeah.
It's been this way for my whole career, so there must be a technicality in statute that requires it.
All right, on that note, is there a motion to approve initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed 29.9 million? Chris, is there a second?
Also,
Katie? Any other questions or discussion?
I have one question. I don't know if I missed the opportunity for this, or maybe we asked, and, is there some way to add the word critical into this sentence? Because some of these infrastructure projects are critical, and I just feel like that word might help us, but I don't know if we can even add anything to it.
I think the attorney would tell you that that's somewhat leading, and I think they're a little bit careful. Now, in our communication campaign, we absolutely will prioritize that as our critical infrastructure needs, and we're gonna itemize those and explain the why behind it. I generally would say that if somebody steps into the ballot booth or into the voting booth and is not aware of what the project is, and they just read the language, they're likely not gonna vote yes. So it's incumbent on us to do a great job continuing to engage the community and communicate about why we need to do these things. And so that's kind of the next step of this process after tonight, is working with our team to begin building boards for everywhere in the community, mailers, flyers, handouts, everything you can think of, social media. Working a lot with the sounder, as we learned from our survey response, to really help the community get an added level of understanding as to the why behind this. Great question.
And just a little bit of good news, Kevin Mullins is our Baird representative, so he's the one that calculates how much we can go for bond and all that other good stuff. And it just came out, this is preliminary, so we won't know in October, but preliminarily, it looks like Wisconsin valuation of homes went up 14% in this last year, and Random Lake, we were right around 10%. And I believe our calculations are based off of like a 5%. So if that happens for a few years, that will mean we, not only can we say we're not going to raise our mill rate, it gives us even more of a comfortable spot there. So just a little bit of good news. Again, there's a lot of numbers that have to come down and all that other good things. But I got that email today I thought I'd just share with everyone that for this next year, it looks like it's almost going to double what our first year projections would be for valuation.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we have the second part to resolve, providing for a referendum election on the question of the approval of initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed 29.9 million.
If only an attorney could write.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Matt, is there a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Rainey? Okay. Any further questions or discussion?
Ed, did you want to say anything about this before we close out this?
Yeah, just very briefly, I did place in front at each of your stations tonight, kind of the updated set of plans. So remember, we had original plans, survey plans with a detailed budget, which we reviewed previously. Post that prior meeting, we went through that list of potential scope reductions, and we had a collective conversation around where those were. This integrates those. So now this is kind of what I would consider, this is our referendum plan and our referendum budget. It reflects the 29.9 and it reflects the minor revisions to the scope. So you'll see on the actual site plan floor plan, the biggest differences in the site plan is the road to the south is removed. Some of the revisions on the west side of school or back of school have been removed. The addition of the classroom at the high school wing, remember the linking addition, that has been removed. So those are kind of the most visible things on the site plan. And then similarly on the floor plan, right? The classroom addition is removed. We revised in the prior conversation, we were going to reduce the scope slightly at the band choir, not to not make improvements there, but just exactly how we address those needs. So we're now showing the current green rooms and stage in a green minor renovation color, because it's a much more affordable way to provide them with some of the amenities that they're lacking now that would support the theater operations. So that's a visible change you'll see. The large addition, those changes are really minor. If you remember, they were narrowing the corridor by a foot or two here and there. So they're there in this plan, and probably not jumping off the page at you in terms of what it looks like. And then the other major piece I would say, and it's really not that major, is we removed the locker room renovation on the middle school side. So again, nothing super big. The most visible is removing that classroom addition at the end of the high school wing. But just wanted to get you kind of what the final plan is, and we'll begin using this in our communication campaign as we move forward to continue informing the community. Again, just wanted you to have the latest and greatest, and the budget that was adopted or revised to reflect that. So you have the detail, and you see the total is accurate. Was not looking for any action on that, obviously. Just wanted to make sure as we went into this that you had the true referendum plan in front of you.
Okay.
Do you think the renovation in the band room is going to be enough to help with the growing program?
Yeah, so the dollars we have in are significant. It deals with acoustical treatment, moving some walls to expand the size of that room. It's an allocation of dollars right now. Whether 2 offices and a storage room become 1 office and 2 practice rooms, that's all the detail that gets worked out after the referendum, but there's significant dollars going in to invest in that space.
Are there any other
One more
questions? What? Oh,
Sorry. So for the bathrooms, it says BP and GP, is that like
A boys' toilet, girls' toilet.
toilets?
Yeah, sorry.
Like, one of them looks like it was just B and G and then the others, but now I actually see the T right after everything.
No problem.
So then I thought they were different than G.
Good questions.
Did we always have 2 entries, or was it gonna be 1 for a while, and now it's just 2 entry canopies?
So kind of our north entry point
Uh-huh.
is kind of the current, I'll say the lobby that really doesn't do anything, and the link between the elementary school, middle school, and the high school.
Yeah,
There's a lobby area. That's gonna now become basically the main K-12 school entry after the school day starts.
sure.
The entry to the south with the smaller dashed canopy over it,
Mhm.
that's really gonna become our event entry. Thinking most of our parking is here. It's the corridor that brings us straight back to both the gymnasium and to the auditorium to the left.
Mhm.
So that canopy is very minor, but it's still going to identify entry for your events. And likely with some signage and things, we'll be able to clearly identify which is the entry. But day to day, after the school day begins, that northern entry point will be the only door that's open for anybody coming into the school. I have a sneaking suspicion that the event entry will kind of be the high school student entry when they park and come in the morning. That door will be available, but after the school day starts, I'm assuming that'll be locked, right? All entrance will come in through the northern.
And even now in the morning, we have them all come through that same entrance, so everybody comes through. And we had a little grumbling the first year, but it's, you know,
That's great that you can do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you addressed this already, but the actual, a number of parking spots or stalls, will that be the same or different, or?
It's actually gonna be a slight net increase by the time, this is still showing kind of a blend of old and new. The budget has a small expansion on the southern end of the lot, closer to school. We've got some green space there. And then by the time we redo some of the circulation patterns, we have a lot of circulation out here. But by the time we redo all that asphalt, we can redo the circulation patterns. And we're gonna be neutral if not increasing.
Okay, thank you.
Very good questions.
Are there any other questions? All those,
So as far as the entry stuff goes, like there's a bunch of, so there's the doors next to the auditorium that are currently there, there's the doors to the end of the high school corridor, like, those are still gonna be doors, right? They're just not gonna be, they have always be locked.
It'll always be like, the auditorium doors will open for events and things like that. But really for the school day, the only place you can get in during the school day will be through that entry or the students in the back by the bus.
And those all, we'll have those, when you were talking about, like, you get some kind of notification if there's an unlocked door in any of those spots.
Yeah, there's what's called a door position switch. It's a technical term. It really will identify during hours that you want to be notified if a door is open, and it'll text or communicate. However, there's a ton of options as to how it communicates. We'll notify you which doors are open.
And those are on like fobs, so like, some people have, they wouldn't get in there,
I
right?
believe we have, well, I can look it up. I know it's critical. We've got 6 to 10 additional, I don't remember the exact number, but we've got a number of doors that would actually have the key fob reader added to it. You don't have to have the fob reader to have the door position switch. So they're kind of two separate functions. But we are going to increase the number of exterior doors that have fobs to try to, again, the more they're fobbed, the less likely staff are to leave those doors open. But if staff, student, community member, doesn't matter, somebody would leave a door open, you will now have that, any of the doors would have the ability to notify you, and you can obviously address it immediately.
And I think we're getting a lot more cameras too, right?
Yeah, again, I can't remember the exact number, it's in here somewhere, but there's an assumption, as a starting point, for cameras. And you've been doing a good job of adding them pretty
Right.
regularly already, so this would be kind of enhancing what you already have.
We're gonna try to find some, because our clock, I mean, we still have the same old analog clocks and all those other things. There's more things that are starting to integrate with clock systems. We have the same original, our PA system is still the same. We don't have PA in some classrooms, so a lot of those things, hopefully we can get more integrated systems for all this.
Yep, a whole new fire alarm system, clock system, and intercom system are included in here, so those three in and of themselves are a big safety improvement, right? Fire alarm system, critically important. The intercom system intertwined and interconnected with that is a critical communication tool. And not just a fire emergency, but any emergency you may have in the building that you can't communicate effectively.
Those three things, what are those three things? That's probably $400,000 plus, huh?
The fire alarm system alone is $427,000, the clock system $110, and the intercom $183. So
So
not inexpensive, and mainly because we have a large building, right? We have a 244,000 square foot school that we'd be adding and upgrading those systems with.
I hate to ask this kind of stuff, but like bulletproof glass and things like that, when we talking about that a while back too, is that something that is a standard safety equipment now too?
Our budgets for the additions and or renovations where there are office environments or kind of main points of entry have a level of that assumed. Post referendum, we would ask if assuming your council will allow a closed session meeting where we could kind of go into a lot of detail as to exactly what and where. We typically don't want to publicize that because it defeats the purpose a bit as to the physical impediments that you're going to create.
Yeah.
Not that we don't want the board to know, but if we would have an opportunity post-referendum to go into closed session, we'd love to go into detail and help us understand exactly how far you want to go with a lot of those different pieces. But safety's paramount. I mean, this new secure entry will make a big difference in terms of the direct interaction. And then all the other things we're gonna do that we just discussed, and then there's others as well that we'll talk about later on.
First, the roof replacement.
Yep.
So some of these areas that are gray, would that be an area that's still getting new roofing? Like, I know back in the ag room, there's some leaks in that room.
So the budget, one of the updates that was made from last time was actually increasing the allocation within the 29.9 for roofing. And we now have the remaining, I will find the percentage for you.
65%.
The remaining 65%, 35% were done in the last referendum, so the remaining 65% are in this budget to be redone.
Okay.
There are things in the gray that will be done, all of the plumbing improvements, HVAC improvements, electrical improvements, such as those three categories alone are almost $3 million. You know, many of those directly impact the areas that are shown as existing within the plan.
Okay. So I like the way you said that. So even the gray areas are still impacted
Yes.
by.
Yep. I can say in general, every square foot of the building will be impacted. Something as simple as a fire alarm system that impacts every square foot of the building. We can't be selective as to where we do
Floor
that.
coverings, I think, across, is
It's
it
not
most?
every square foot, just
Okay.
because we have some flooring that was newer, some that's in good condition, a gym floor, for example, right? So there's some areas,
But most classrooms would get floor cover, I think.
those that are shown, yeah, the
Yeah.
middle school, elementary and middle school. Let me find that location. It would be budget section 21, so there's 42,000 square feet of area, much of which is, I would say, the gray down in the elementary middle school wing, so it's a lot, 42,000 square feet. Would be getting flooring, ceilings, paint, 15 of them would get new doors. We'd have new marker boards and tack boards, new cabinetry in those rooms, so I'll say kind of a not physically moving walls or doors within kind of the elementary middle school wing, other than the major renovation, but still breathing some kind of new life into those spaces with paint and ceilings and flooring. I think they'll really feel fresh and bright and new when done.
And again, a question I think we talked about, but you could just refresh our memory. From the point that, assuming it passes and gets approved and all the studies are done, and when the first shovel starts and the first project begins to completion, what's the estimated amount of time that would take?
I think for now, until we phase the whole plan out, I think it's fair to assume that it's probably a 24 to 30 month project, about 12 months to design, engineer, permit, a couple months to bid, and then anywhere, from 18 to 20 months to do the actual construction. And that may compress if we can phase it, and may have to elongate slightly if the phasing doesn't work out. But I think big picture, 24 to 30 months is a good rough time frame for now.
And the impact on the learning while that's going on?
Yeah, I generally would say minimal. We're not gonna be remodeling classrooms, for example, obviously during the school year, we're gonna have to concentrate some of that work in the summer. But there are other areas where we maybe can tackle it, right? I think I would say the first thing is to get the addition going. It takes the longest to do and then gives you some swing space, right? Once we build a new library, once we build a new kitchen, now we can go back and tackle the renovation in the kitchen and in the current cafeteria at the same time, like after we get that done. So some of it's gonna be getting the new space built, moving the functions in there, going back and remodeling. So there will be work done during the school day. It'll be separated with physical temporary partitions and barriers. We've generally found that students love it. Change is good. They don't mind, right? They roll with it. Staff, I would tell you, don't love it, and it will be a challenge. But we'll work with them and make sure that they're obviously going to be part of the planning process. The big picture students usually find it to be quite exciting, right? They're seeing their physical environment change around them, and hopefully we can get a few interested in construction along the way as well.
Okay, any other questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great to see all of you again. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, COVID,
Okay. I know some of you are gonna ask, do we have to do this? The question is, the answer from everything I can see, because of ESSER funds, we need to have something published on our website. So what you have out here is, I think, just here's what we're gonna do. And I don't think what we're saying here is anything different than we would do in any other years. So I don't know if you want to, we put it down for possible action. There's some things you'd like to tweak in here. I'm not by at all sold on any of this. I just wanted to make sure that if they come and say, do you have your COVID plan for this year published and approved by the board? Yes, here it is.
Okay, so you're saying we probably should then approve it so that we can say that it's approved by the
I
board?
probably, I mean, it's as long as it's on the website, they're happy. That's the link I remember from the ESSER grant, for doing this. But if you guys want to approve it, I say go ahead and approve it. And then it's just another layer, so we don't have to come back later.
Is there a motion to approve?
Do we need a motion to discuss it at all, right? I want to talk about it too.
All right, Katie, is there a second?
I'll second.
Who's that? Chris?
Amy.
Amy, okay. Throwing your voice. All right, have at it.
I guess I'd like to strike the last paragraph under the second column. Because like that's out of keeping even with what CDC has like pulled back on now, right? And so having somebody have to quarantine because there's a family member that has it, I don't think that's something that would be. So, I mean, CDC right now is like trying to stay isolated, and it's all about like if you have symptoms, right? So, and I think being stronger than them feels.
Right.
not
And
necessary.
at the time I thought that was, so if
It's
that's,
pretty good, yeah.
okay. I'm,
Yeah, so if we could strike that last paragraph, otherwise I thought it looked good.
okay.
Anyone else?
I like what she said.
All
Will
right.
we continue to report the numbers each week? or
I'm
is that
planning on
gonna-
not, that's
phasing it
gonna,
out?
that's not anything in here anymore. This is it, and it won't be reviewed unless you ask for it to be reviewed, or we need to look at it again next year. Not weekly updates and none of that good stuff. No. We can always readdress it, we can look at it, things would change, but as of right now, this would be probably all we talk about this year, for now.
All right, do we, need to amend the motion to strike that paragraph, Sandy? All right, Katie,
So,
you amend your,
amendment to approve with that last paragraph.
She's making a motion to amend the,
Friendly amendment with the first
you're
page.
making a motion to amend the statement that you previously made that we're currently discussing, as the words are coming out of it.
You got it?
There has to be
Got
a
it.
second to
And-
the amendment.
Amy, will you
And then a
accept that
vote on the amendment.
amendment?
And then
Okay.
a second, then vote on the amended statement.
All right. So we have it amended, first and seconded. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So that was the motion to amend.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the statement as amended.
Is there a
I
motion?
make a motion
And
to.
this is separate.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay. All
I'll
right,
second that
Chris
motion.
and Chuck, any other questions? We need Robert here.
My father coming out of me.
All those in favor, please say aye.
I'll go with that.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're done with that. We're done.
That Robert, I don't know about that.
It was a requirement for us to be on student council.
Well, while you're at it, Sandy, do you have a quick snippet of why we have to have a motion to discuss anything that we don't discuss
Yes,
before a
we
motion?
cannot. This is a good example, because if through the discussion, there would be an amendment to what was going to be voted on, you can't vote on something until there's a discussion, until there's an option for discussion. So if you have to have permission through the motion and the seconding to say, all right, we're gonna talk about this, or have the option to talk. You don't have to, but according to Robert's rules, that's the only way to open the door for discussion, because you've at least approved the fact that it's on the table to be discussed.
And just because you make the motion to approve does not mean that you personally have to vote for that motion.
No, the
It's-
motion,
it's just
the
to-
motion and the vote are two separate actions.
Thank you. Everybody clear on that?
So Katie was absolutely correct in making the motion because she wanted to
Right.
discuss. And knowing that you couldn't discuss until the motion was seconded.
And we've had these discussions when you weren't here as our sergeant of arms. And I don't have all the facts. I kind of know what we're supposed to do, but I don't really know why. I just know we're supposed to.
Thank my thoughts.
Feel a little smarter now, Tim. There you go.
Okay, so we have overnight travel requests by Coach K to go to the Dells. Is there a motion to approve? Rainey, is there a second?
I'll second.
Matt? All right, and administration approves. You down with it? All right, Susan. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a presentation of the high school schedule.
Okay, I know the high school schedule is kind of tweaked. Go back 2 years ago, and when the pandemic hit, Susan and her team came up and said, you know, one of the best ways to cohort would be to go to a straight, true block schedule,
Daily block.
daily block, which meant
Instead of meeting AP, we met daily, so 4 classes a day. And they met for either, like a semester class became a quarter, and a year-long class became a semester.
and that allowed us to make sure we didn't mix as many kids and all those other good things. And since that time, I think Susan and her team, I'm gonna kick it off to you, and you're gonna talk about the rest of it. We've seen some, positive consequences from it. So it's been an evolution over the last few years. So we just wanted to bring it here and talk a little bit about where it was, where we are, some additional classes, talk a little bit about AR, some data that she has, and then from there, I'm gonna kick it over to you, Susan. So talk a little bit about the schedule.
a lengthy discussion with the teacher team regarding AB versus daily block. There's pros and cons. You can read the research, you can find a variety of research that supports a block schedule every other day. You can find research that supports a daily block schedule as well as, against it. So with all of the discussions, we surveyed teachers, we've surveyed students, and we've done that 2 years now in a row, and parents as well. And so from there, we've got teachers that have indicated, you know what, I'd much prefer to teach it a daily because that would work better for my discipline, such as music. They find that meeting daily for 50 to 60 minutes is much better instruction, and you see the growth quicker with students than you do on a 90-minute every other day. Where other disciplines for like the larger chunk of time is better for my discipline such as science. Because when you're going into a lab type situation, having more time is more conducive to that learning piece. So then we've had other discussion where students were like, you know what, the AV worked better for me. And there was a variety of reasons, and some students were like, the daily worked much better for me. It could have been time management, organization, just managing the workload, because some had some really intensive AP courses, and so just managing 3 was much better than trying to juggle 8. So there was a variety of things that went into this discussion. Overwhelmingly, when we surveyed the students, the majority were more on the daily block than the AV. When surveying the teachers, they were split down the middle with 50-50 pretty much. And parents, again, it was all depending on what their child's needs were. So you could kind of see if when they had a child that struggled more with time management or some attention issues, they found that the juggling only 3 or 4 classes a day was more conducive. So there was a lot of conversation, a lot of thought that went into it. So coming into this school year, we are going back to an AB model with caveats. We've got skinny classes that are going to meet during period 2 for 50 minutes each. And so period 2 for the skinny classes is like 10 minutes longer than the block class, but we got AR that it butts up to, so that's okay. It'll absorb that. So we've got our music that'll be coming through the skinny. We've got other courses that are coming through the skinny that the teacher said, you know what, this is going to be much more conducive to student learning if I can have them daily, such as our AP Lang is a class that's going to be in the daily skinny, so that way they can have their instruction all the way leading up to that AP exam. And so then we're also trying to be very strategic too with some of the student placements and choices there. So that's going to be the combination schedule that we're going into for this school year. Still maintaining our academic resource time, our ACT, all those pieces that we have had. We're still going to be maintaining all of that as we come into this school.
And if I can just add, I think the one piece that research doesn't say, but I believe in wholeheartedly, the schedule doesn't matter as long as the people believe in the schedule. And I think the piece that I like out of the schedule that came up is it hits a little bit for a lot of different people. And people that like this got a little bit of this, people that got this. Nobody won, but nobody lost out of it. And it comes to a place that you can see some of our staff that want that incremental learning, that want to be there 5 days a week are getting that. Some of the staff that want the longer periods are getting that. So is it perfect? No, there's not a schedule that's perfect. I can tell you, I can go hours on some of the things I've done in my past. Some people love me for it, some people still hate me for it. It's just the way it is with it. So I think this is a really nice way to meet in the middle. And as you hear things, good, bad, or otherwise, make sure you share about the schedule.
Because our building leadership team is always talking about that and trying to tweak and trying to make sure what's working well and what's not working well, so that way we can address it. If it's not going well, the only way that we can get better is to talk about it and address it in the best way that we can. So, yeah,
Just a quick question. So I actually think you're very creative with the scheduling. I think what you guys did to deal with the course and stuff on doing the daily schedule was really good. We're going back to this, so, and then I think what you're doing with the skinny blocks is also really creative. Very problem solving. My only question really is, like, did all students have skinnies in period 2, or are there some full blocks in period 2?
some full blocks in period 2 and some skinny. We had debated that. Do we have everyone in a skinny? But yet we wanted to still honor those who didn't want to be teaching that skinny. With that, so we didn't have enough. And also looking at instructional minutes, we want to make sure we're still, being consistent with that. So looking at, as also part of our scheduling then, we've done academic resource days for support in the past. And the proposals with the leadership team have come up with, we've had 2 a quarter the last couple of years. And they still just want to keep it 2 a quarter, because now you got an A day and a B day. So it's just one day that's an A day, one day that's a B day, support day. But we've lengthened the day, no, I shouldn't say length. Before we did they ran through their schedule in the morning. We're lengthening it, so it's just the last 2 hours of the day that's the support time. So 3/4 of the school day they'll be running through their entire schedule. And then the last 2 hours be that support time for the students that we can really zero in on that. And the reason we want to maintain those academic resource days, because I've been tracking our data for the last 4 years. So the very first year is pre-COVID. So that's the first full school year they had before we went on the COVID hiatus, where we went online. So you can see what our F data is there for the 4 quarters. And so then you can see the COVID year, and then the 2 years since then, where we've been incorporating the AR days. I just wanted to share with you the update on how we've really been impacting that significantly. And I have the attendance data too, because I know that's a concern, because we don't want to be and the teachers, it's a concern too. You don't want students or families seeing that as time off. You want to see this very purposeful and useful. But also what we've heard from the students is that this is a huge motivator for me, getting this time. That's a huge motivator. And that's the students telling us that. But we also want to be very conscientious of the instructional time. And so that's why we're proposing just 2 days a quarter at about mid-quarter. It'll fall roughly like week 5, that's the Thursday, Friday. We do the A-Day and the B-Day in 1 week. It's only first quarter that it falls to week 6 because we don't want to do it at homecoming. That's actually when it falls. So we went later. So that's the only quarter that we're about week 6 or 7. I think it's week 6. But otherwise, we're proposing week 5, Thursday, A-Day, Friday, B-Day.
And I was
Keeping
just-
it to the 2 days per
Yep.
quarter.
So we have the F data up there, and if you remember going back just a few months ago, the number of failures across the Wisconsin and across the US because of the pandemic, when many schools, most schools were worried, how are we gonna get more kids to pass? This is the data we have in front of us. So the motivator for our high schoolers to get a little bit of time is a carrot that I don't think I would have even contributed this much success to it. So this, you can see with the failure rates, and then you can also, Susan's done a really nice job of just looking at academic resource Fridays, because I think, and Katie and I talked a little bit, there was a little, if you want to scroll down to just the attendance. How many students, now number of requests, that would be how many classes, right? Susan, when it says number of requests, those weren't 160 students, it could be one student that had 4 requests. Okay. You can see what kind of percentage attendance rate we had of students coming to the times when they were required. And then the last page, if you want to flip to the last page, is just a survey of students, staff, and parents about the academic resource Fridays. So I know there's been other conversations. We thought, as we're talking about the schedule, this is a good time to just, have questions. I know we have friends and there's been conversations out there, so making sure that we can all be in this together, that we can, this is why, look at the failure rates, look at what we're doing, and celebrate our successes with this.
And we're really trying to put an emphasis, just not on completion, but proficiency. The students just can't turn in work to say, I've got it all turned in. They actually have to be at proficient level with that work that's being done. So that's that part of it with the schedule. And the next piece that I wanted to highlight is that really we're teaming with Lakeland with ACP college courses here. We had wanted to pilot it last school year with a couple of students because it was being built brand new with Lakeland, and so we were going to pilot it. But unfortunately, the students said, you know what, I've got too much going on. So this year, they've got now the curriculum built and they're ready to go. So we're going to partner with Lakeland to offer this ACP course that will give them college credit. And we're going to target our seniors for sure. Is where we're going to start. And that'll be, if you remember, once a week on Wednesdays, it's either our ACP or ACP day during academic research. So the other 4 is more for almost like a study hall, so to speak, but that day we focus on ACP, or our Ramway. And so with ACP, every student was going through lessons where they're really talking about what are they going to do post high school, whether it's going into the workforce, college, things like that. So this will be those lessons that the students then will go through, and they will receive college credit for it, every single one of our students. So we're very excited about partnering with them and hope to then the following year have it be juniors and seniors that will be utilizing this curriculum. And then also working with Lakeland, offering other avenues for college credit and that'll be new this year as well. So along with everything that we've already currently got, we're gonna be able to offer even more. And so instead of even just falling on Odyssey where we want to be looking at these other courses with our partners. So we're very excited about that. And Jacob's meeting with our partners. He's been reaching out with them, getting caught up to speed with all of those new offerings. So it's exciting.
And just, just to remind us, ACP curriculum, it's how to build a resume, how to do an interview, how to do these things. It's maybe reaching out to a business in an area that you want to do it. It's 9, I believe it's 9 classes around preparing you to leave the school. And Lakeland, that is their piece. They are a co-op college. And right now, we actually have the ability to, with this, as students take it seriously and do the activities that they'll be given for free, everyone can leave with at least 1 college credit, which when you look at redefining ready and you look at how schools are rated in the future, it's how many students, what percentage of your students leave with at least 1 college credit. We'll be one of the few that can say 100% of our students have had either experienced or earned a college credit before graduation. So there's a lot of really cool things that Susan and Jake are doing around this that give our students another advantage. And it's about having our kiddos see, why math's important? Because if you want to be this, you have to be good at math. And it's going to build that engagement in the school by seeing why these things are important. So they all kind of work together.
The last piece I wanted to share, you see the GED, it's supposed to be actually O and then 2. So GEDO 2. So it's a GED.
I still got it wrong. It wasn't Z.
GED option number 2. So this is offered through DPI. It's something that you apply for, school districts can apply for. And that's if a student finds themselves in such a credit deficient state that there's no way that they can earn the credits to graduate with their class. In lieu of having to return for another year or 2 to take those courses, or go off and try to pass the GED or the HSED on their own, that they can take prep for the GED here at school with an instructor, and we can use a variety of digital and paper resources that we're helping them to prep towards each of the GED exams. And so they have to put in 15 hours a week of the school prep at school with an instructor. Then they have to put in an additional 10 to 15 hours a week, either community service or working. So that's the major components of this. And so upon successful completion then of each exam, they do a pre-assessment, to make sure they're ready, and the school helps them get there and get prepared. And upon whatever other parts that we want to put in place, they have to take health, they have to pass the civics exam. Upon successful completion of all that, they can earn their high school diploma. And so that's why we applied to DPI for the GEDO option. So that way they can graduate with their peers and have their doors open to them with wherever it is that they may like to go, whether it's to a technical college or into the workforce, whatever that is. But they can leave here then with their high school diploma, but they have to successfully complete all of them.
At what point does this kick in? At what point do you realize, is it the start of your senior year, or?
It's through conversations throughout your junior year. You're seeing by probably the spring of your junior year
Okay.
that you're like, okay, it's
Ain't
going to
gonna
take
happen.
me a whole additional year or 2 to even be able to graduate. And that's after, because they need to first exhaust summer school credit recovery, all of those other things during, after their freshman year and sophomore year.
And you can't even do it till after your 17th birthday, right? Is that, or what's the age Is there age requirement with the
You
gym?
have to be a senior or 17.
Okay, so this isn't something you come in as a freshman, you're like, I'm rolling in the
Yeah.
judo program.
Well, I was kind of wondering, yeah, I'm gonna jump on this track because it looks like.
Well, I mean, you could if you wanted to, you just gotta take 3 years vacation and then roll into it, but hopefully we don't have that.
But if you do that, that's a lot of prepping.
Well, it is a lot of time. When you were talking about those hours, that's a lot of time.
So it's not like you can just come in, oh, I'm just gonna go through this. There's a lot of commitment that you gotta put forth in it.
And it's really cool to be able to make deals with kids, like, hey, you know what, you maybe made some poor choices, but if you do this and put your nose to the grindstone, we can still get you to graduation and walk with your peers.
But they're getting the exact same diploma, their peers are,
They're getting their high school diploma
So it'd still be randomly.
randomly.
but they're getting the same thing that their peers took all the classes for and put in even more hours than we're asking them to put in. And they're walking out the door with the same piece of paper.
Keep in mind though, they're also in attendance taking those classes, they just haven't passed. So they're still putting in, they're here at school and doing all that kind of.
I struggle with that.
Well, that isn't yours, that's a state,
Right.
a state thing. It's not like random is offering something
Yeah.
different.
No, that's DPI, right, that's a state.
It's just like a GED, you're just allowing them to do it early, right?
Right, because otherwise, if they didn't graduate and they said, you know, I'm gonna go out and take the GED, they gotta wait until they're 18 or their senior class has graduated. And then they gotta try to do the prepping and taking all that. But the prepping for these GED, I think people have in their mind that this GED exam can be easy to pass. And they're not, they're actually quite difficult and rigorous. Because if you think about 4 years of high school for math, that's a lot of math that you need to be teaching and prepping for in actually a short period of time. So these exams are actually very rigorous.
Yeah, students need to at least have a 9th grade reading level to even think about going this route. If it's a student with disabilities that can't read, that's, no, they don't,
That'll be
they won't even get through. Then we look through other ways through IEPs and stuff to try to assist them.
How many kids do we have in that boat?
I would now for the last 3 to 4 years, what I've tracked is we have 2 to 3 every year. And what we've done for them is we've helped them do some GED prepping, like maybe even, 2 periods of the day on their own, but we haven't seen that they've been successful in pursuing that after high school. So our main goal is that we want every student to have at least doors open. A student with a GED, they're probably going to have to put forth a little more work before they can get into a 4-year college of their choice, too. So not all of the doors are open that maybe our other graduates will have, but at least it's open. They're going to have to put in additional work to get to where they want to go.
So why does it make sense to give them a high school diploma instead of a GED if what they've actually passed is the GED? Like, we get trying to help them pass it and get from that, right? But to Reni's point, like, it's not the same thing. You haven't done the same thing with the other students, even if they've sat in the chairs, if they're flunking the classes, then that's part of it, right? So what they're really earning is a GED.
They call it the GED option, so that way they can still leave with their high school diploma, putting in the different hours. I don't know, I mean, that's a very good question. I look at it as that they're still needing to put in just as much work to try to get themselves ready and through that door. And if they're motivated to do that, they're going to do it at that point.
And we're working with students that haven't shown that motivation and I can tell you, most schools I know have been doing this for years. And one of the reasons a lot of schools did it is, especially in smaller schools, if you have 2 or 3 students that don't graduate, and you look at your school report card, all you need is 3 students and you don't hit your graduation requirements. And those graduation requirements then will knock you, and that's a 5-point reduction in smaller.
And our numbers are very small that we're doing very heavily.
Right.
But what I've seen with the kids that haven't graduated, it's not because they're just sitting there being lazy. There's been some major trauma that's happened in their lives that's interfered with their ability to get it done. And so, I look at it as that, they may not be completing everything that all the other students are doing, but their doors are going to be a lot wider open to them. Where these students, they've found themselves in a situation, not because they chose to want to be there. No one comes in saying, I'm going to fail these classes. There's not a single student that engages in a class with that mindset, I'm just going to fail. But they've gotten themselves there, and it's usually been due to life circumstances that have gotten them. And that's, it's unfortunate.
And it's not anything we're gonna advertise, like, we got this option for you.
Yeah. This isn't like the college, like, hey, take college, do this.
This will be on a student-by-student case basis with Jacob during their junior year conference.
Yeah, by that time, and, without that, jobs, even entry-level jobs probably are not that available without that.
Does the general world look at a big difference of having a GED versus a high school diploma? I mean, how impactful is that, other than college? How impactful is that in today's market?
I've always used it in my conversations in my previous life. It was an extra carrot for those kids that felt like they were hopeless, like they could actually earn this, they could do this, and here they are in, the last 20% of their high school career and be like, okay, I can still do this and graduate with my classmates and have this. It was a piece that I felt was encouraging a group of people that I can tell you had spent 3 years trying to get encouraged every way possible to help them learn. So right now, I mean, I'll be honest with you, you don't need a high school diploma. You can make $45 an hour tomorrow, if you're willing to work in a production line somewhere, do that and, go start throwing something around in the foundry at Kohler, they'll take you.
Well, that's my point, is how impactful, what is really the difference, other than maybe if you're gonna apply for college? What's the difference of whether, okay, so you have a GED versus a high school diploma? Does it really matter outside of college, found people?
Well,
Does it-
I don't know how it is like right now, but a few years ago, we have clients that won't take people in manufacturing that have a GED. They want
Okay.
high school
Well,
diplomas.
that's how it's.
So, I mean, I would say it's more rare. But it's a lot of the larger clients that,
There's still a stigma with it.
yes.
There is,
Yes.
okay. Well, it's also time dependent. I mean, we're in a world now where you can't find any employees anywhere for anything, I mean,
Right.
realistically.
So I don't know how it is today,
Yeah,
but I
but
know
back
in
then
the
it was a
most recent
Stigma.
past that
But
there
Yeah,
is.
but there still exists that stigma.
With the GED or?
Correct.
Yeah.
And actually, the board is going to have to approve this at a later
At a
date.
later time.
This was
Yeah.
just information to let us know, so, and I know, Susan, we put the application in. If we're approved, we'll bring it back to this, so if there's some more discussion we need to have on this topic, this was just kind of a FYI, here's all the cool things happening at the high school.
Okay. Any other questions for Susan? All right. Next, we move on to the official newspaper designation. And Gary's here representing again. Is there a motion to designate the Sounder as our official newspaper? With the many thanks for all the years so far. Matt, was that you?
Sure.
Oh, I thought you said something.
I'll
Okay,
second.
Amy. All right. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Gary.
Yes, thank you.
Gary.
And next, we have the second reading and approval of the semi-annual updates to the policies from Neola. There's no changes from last month from the first reading that we discussed in policy when we met earlier tonight. So is there a motion to approve? Rainey, is there a second?
Second.
Chris? Okay, any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have staff resignations, but I don't have the list.
We do have two, so we do keep this on here, because it is that time of year, I don't know if you noticed, but there's districts around us that are now doing $5,000 signing bonuses for staff and all the other good stuff. So Friday was a day where we had some conversations, and I do have to share that, Stephanie, is it Dulkey? Bacher, okay, I had her maiden name, is leaving us to go to Cedar Grove, Belgium, where she graduated from, and I think her mom's a board member there, so she's going back home. And Joe Hildebrand is resigning to go teach at West Bend. He has some kids in high school, and he's like, I can't be an AD and go watch my kid play football this fall. So both of them, I would ask that we would accept the resignation contingent on finding a full-time replacement. I know Sandy has some interviews this week, and I believe Susan has some conversations coming up for both of these to get this covered. So luckily, we have some things that might be able to transition quickly with this, so.
Okay, with that said, is there a motion to accept the resignations with the contingency of replacements and with thanks for their service? Chris, is there a second? Katie, any questions or discussion?
What is the contingency mean? Like, if we don't hire somebody, we don't accept the resignation, like,
So they're under contract, so by rights, we don't have to let them out of their contract. But we don't want to also force people to be here that don't want to be here. If you remember this board a few years ago, we enacted a $2,000, yeah, so they need to pay the $2,000. And the agreement with the other district is, it's really a way for us to say, okay, we're gonna play nice in this, but let's not impact kids negatively. Let's not have a teacher that's not here on day one for our kiddos because you decided to leave 2 weeks before school started. So we will do everything in our powers to get these covered and get good people in front of kids. But if we can't find a teacher, you are beholden to us until we release you to go. So it's just a way to make sure that we take care of our own first and go from there.
so if we find a teacher, they don't pay the 2,000 or they pay the?
They still gotta pay the 2,000, but, so if Wednesday goes well and that person can start day one, we can say, you know what, congratulations, once we have your $2,000, we can separate and go from there.
If they actually can't leave, if we can't.
Well, they could still leave, I mean, if this board chose to, but they're under contract, they signed a contract, you know, a way they can get out of that contract is for this board to say, they have a time, teachers are given contracts in May, they have time between then and really July 1st to sign their contracts, and once they sign it, they've agreed to stay for this year. So, since this came after they signed it, those are some of the consequences, so it's pretty standard. I think we've done a nice job here of having consequences, but making them natural consequences to this, because we know life happens and sometimes a job at home pops up. Okay, but here are the things to make sure that we don't get negatively impacted because of choices.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have some notifications for new support staff, middle school education aide Corey Itzen, and elementary school special education aide Jennifer, is that Leiter or Leader? Leiter, thank you. And then on 17, we have new salaried staff, bus driver Jennifer Leiter, and high school special education case manager Tammy Eisen.
Just another instance where combining a bus position with an aide position, we cover two positions with one person that we may not have had otherwise. So,
Nice.
just another example of how we can be more flexible.
And Jennifer used to do this.
And she used to drive us.
Nice.
Yeah. So she's come back home.
Have them coming back. All right, and on 18 and 19, we have, on 18, it's the co-curricular coaches and advisors for 2022-23. And it's just that time of year that we re-up. And then in 19, the volunteers for the co-curricular programs for 22 and 23.
Was the high school track already announced? Was that another meeting? I didn't see that one.
Yeah, we might have got him in on the last board meeting. Yes, I think so.
I think he was, last note that I had was the TBD for track. Track is until spring.
Oh, was it?
So we have the assistants. We just don't have a head.
That's the last I heard was.
Yeah, we do have a head track.
I was gonna say, I thought we had a head track.
Yeah, we do. We'll get that next
What
month.
was that, Jason?
Jason,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Did we get that last month?
I thought it was combined on the last one.
I thought so too.
Oh,
Yeah.
So if there's a sport that's not listed that we've had in the past and maybe it's coming back, does that have to get approved before the school year starts? I'm wondering about trap for our high school.
So we haven't had trap in the past,
Oh, we haven't.
but we're having discussions about trap. Susan, can you help me with where we're at with those discussions?
Yeah, we're just meeting in discussions with Natalie right now, trying to get all the details ironed out, so that way that we can present that sport here.
So we could still have it this year, even though it's not on this list.
How prevalent is that within the conference, track teams?
There's some
I
around.
don't
Yeah,
know.
there's some around, yeah.
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 I
And
mean, it's enough that the gun club has track for
yeah.
high school kids or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's what it
I
is.
know
The
there's
gun club
outside
is
clubs
doing
that
it.
are doing it,
Yeah.
Right,
but part of the conference
right.
as an actual thing to sport.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Okay.
usually most of them are held on the weekend for a tournament because of the traveling we have made nature for.
So we think it's in our initial, this will be, we approved a few years ago that you can be in multiple sports. This is one of those really good complementary sports where you can be in basketball and still shoot track or, because it's two different skill sets. And hopefully there's not too many games that overlap.
That's tough to do with the gun club schedule. The boys hardly ever make.
Oh, really? Was it? With football and soccer? No.
I don't know. I think that, they're saying with the school, it'll be much more flexible.
Was that in fall?
It's not a fall, well, I don't believe.
It's spring.
It's a
Spring.
spring one.
Spring.
So it'd be track and.
Yeah, it's not a fall sport, it's spring.
Yeah, we have conflicts on there.
Well, if it's run by a school official, maybe it'd be a little
Yeah.
easier than an
Yeah, I
outside.
think that's,
Keep those in mind, and any experiences when we have that discussion, please bring that back here so we know, make sure it's better.
Okay, and then we have, we need to approve our 660301 agreement, school to work opportunities grant with Ozaukee County School District. This is our 15th year in this program, and we do this annually. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Matt, is there a second? Katie, any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we have our belief commitment statements.
Yeah, and you can read these on your own. I just wanted to, as we kick off another year, you know how big I am on vision and mission and goals. If you don't know by now, it's about strong classrooms, strong culture, and strong community connections. You had your head under a rock somewhere, right? And it's we just had our DLT meeting today. It's part of an organizational ethos and how we're trying to make sure everybody's going the right direction. And I'm really proud of this work. I just wanted to, through our DLT, and being able to define what does strong classroom look like for a student, what does it look like for a staff member, what does it look like for a community. These are the type of things that help us be more and more transparent in what we're trying to do. And I just wanted to get this out in front of you because we put a lot of time into it and I didn't want it to be dead somewhere on a website somewhere. So you're gonna see this every time you hear me talk about providing tomorrow's leaders with a distinct advantage. This is the definition that we're looking for. So thought this was a good time every August to just kind of keep this out there for us.
Great. I like it. All right, informational items.
Okay, couple of things, getting ready for the school year to kick off. It's hot and heavy now. I mean, it's ELT, it's BLT. Tomorrow we're going to Brilliant to talk about some grading practices. Sandy was talking about PBIS and other behavioral things last week. It's humming here and staff are back and there's a good energy right now. So it's a lot of fun. Next week, we have a couple fun events. We're doing something a little bit out of our comfort zone for the first time ever. Our kickoff staff meeting is going to be down at Random Lake Park. We told some staff members might actually have to get in the lake. So,
Oh, boy.
you know, we're doing some things that are a little bit fun. Might have to, yes. And I almost let it slip today what we're doing, and then I was told by the team that's planning it, nope. So yes, we're doing some things, but again, if we talk about strong culture, we have to do things that build strong culture, and we have those things planned for next week. And when the staff is having fun and we're working together, you know what, the kids come in and they have fun, and it really makes it a great place to work and a great place to learn. And that's what we're trying to do with that. Ice cream, the back to school social, let's hope it's not 110 degrees in the school. And one of the reasons the air conditioner part would have passed is probably because of last year's back to school social. We are letting tables sign up. We're not doing the tables in the cafeteria. We're actually doing it in the hallway. So as you're walking around, we can see the tables and less congestion. I know some of us work the tables. So if anybody's interested, Kim is taking requests for tables, and thank you to Tommy. Think this is year 4 now since he started making ice cream that he's donating all the ice cream for us for the ice cream social. So just really, really kind of cool there. I did want to put on your radar. You'll be seeing some information. We're going to have an informational session on Wednesday about our evidence-based report cards. For those that you're going to get a letter grade if you're in middle school or high school, but that letter grade will be accompanied by other grades. So you don't just know that you got a B in algebra. You know, you might have gotten an A because of numbers and a B because of equations. We're doing some things to be more transparent, much like our belief statements are about our transparency, how we're getting out there. We will be doing this, and I would like you, as we get to first quarter, if you hear some concerns, thoughts. We spent a lot of time in DLT today. Adults are trying to do things different, so we can partner with our parents better in this piece. So stay tuned. We will, as we get closer to that first quarter, we'll share what it looks like and what the pieces are as we have more. And then lastly, I just wanted to say last week, BDS Fastener, new company that's in over by Shoe Enterprises downtown. Got a chance to talk with Brian. He's doing some fun stuff over there, and just another opportunity for our students in our own backyard to maybe find some skills. So, summer is over officially for us. There might be a couple days in that we may get a pool day or a trip out there, but learning is happening and getting excited for the energy to come back to school here.
All right, I think we'll take a little recess and have our pictures taken, and then we'll come back after recess and go into closed session. No, we won't be taking any action after closed session.
Nope.
So if we'll just take a recess and let Gary snap our